On the show today, our focus will be unpacking the challenges and solutions to the recurring national grid collapse with our guest, engineer Oluwagbenga Emmanuel Ajiboye. Engineer Oluwagbenga Emmanuel Ajiboye, our guest, was appointed in March 2024 by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the executive director of the Transmission Service Provider (TSP), a key unit of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Before this role, Engineer Ajiboye served as General Manager Transmission Service at TCN Headquarters Abuja, and he previously held positions as General Manager Transmission Lagos Region 2020 to 2023 and Assistant General Manager Transmission at IGMI Sub-Region 2016 to 2020. He holds a Master of Engineering in Electrical and Electronics study from Bells University, Ota, Ogun State, and a Master of Science in Information Technology from the National Open University. Engineer Ajiboye is a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, a member of the Council of Registered Engineers, and also of the Nigerian Institute of Management. Now, to the story today. According to data, the National Grid operator since 2010, the National Grid has reportedly collapsed over 200 times. And just this year, we have had multiple incidents. For context sake, in 2018, the grid collapsed 13 times. In 2019, 11 times. In 2020, 4 times. In 2021, 4 times. In 2022, 6 times. In 2023, 8 times. And in 2024 alone, Nigeria has witnessed 12 national grid collapses, disrupting power supply across the country and raising questions about the state of our energy infrastructure. Despite previous reforms and promises of improvement, Nigerians continue to grapple with unreliable electricity, impacting daily life and economic activities. The figures I read out are all from TCN sources, so we're not manufacturing figures by ourselves. According to data from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, these blackouts affect millions daily, costing Nigeria an estimated $29 billion annually in lost output. Now, you know the rest of the story. You, the listener, you, the viewer on Zoom, you are the ones most impacted by this inefficiency. But to help us unpack all of the burning questions on what's causing these breakdowns and what can be done, we're being joined by the man who is in charge of the National Grid of Nigeria, Engineer Oluwagbenga Emmanuel Ajiboye. He's the Executive Director of the Transmission Service Provider, a key unit of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. To join the conversation, you can call us at 0700 1051 1051. On WhatsApp at 0909 916 4403.
This meeting is being recorded.
Engineer Oluwagbenga Emmanuel Ajiboye now joins us. Good afternoon, Engineer Ajiboye. Good afternoon, Engineer Ajiboye. Thank you very much for joining me on City Talks with Reuben Abati. Hello, Engineer Ajiboye. Can you hear me? Okay.
I'm hearing you now.
Okay.
The network was freezing initially when you were doing the introduction, but I can hear you clearly now.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, the listener. Thank you very, very much for having me on this program.
Thank you. Well, straightforward question. Can you help Nigerians understand why, despite past efforts and investments, the national grid has collapsed 12 times this year alone? You have the relevant experience, you are the man in charge, You have been at a sub-region at a time. Why are we having these grid collapses? Some people say incessant, some people say recurrent, but we measure it in terms of our hardship.
Thank you very much, sir. We will start by let us know the function of every participant in the market so that we can clearly understand the responsibility and obligation attached to each sector. The Transmission Company of Nigeria is just like a bulk transporter between generation company, which we refer to in the market as GENCO, and distribution company, which we refer to as DISCO. The first thing we need to understand is, presently in Nigeria, we don't have facility for energy storage. So whatever that is generated must be consumed at the same time. There must be an equilibrium. In a situation where we have disparity, where the load generated cannot be matched with the consumption, there is imbalance. And there is little gap that can be given before oscillation sets into the system. This will actually lead to disturbance, and disturbance can lead to grid collapse. We need to get another thing very clear about system collapse. System collapse is when there is absence of potential in all the interconnected network, that is the grid. System collapse can be either, that is normally called system collapse in Nigeria, might not be a system collapse. It is the operator of the grid that will tell you when you have system collapse. Not because you lose light, power supply in your area or widespread in Abuja and you refer to it as system collapse. It might be a partial disturbance in that area. And why this happens sometimes is this. If the fault is much, a faulty area is isolated for the other side to be able to recover. So that is the difference sometimes. The number counted is close, but it's not the right figure. Because in most of the number people refer to as system collapse, they are actually grid disturbances and not total collapse of the grid. So we have part of the grid that do survive in situation like that, and we quickly bring them back. And I want people to please realize one thing. The resilience of the system has been affected badly by the vandalization we have recorded recently. If you notice, we have been shouting about vandalization. Up to November 13, due to our compilation, 129 towers have been impacted, either completely brought down, damage that we need to switch off to be able to repair, which has cost TCN enormous resources to be able to put back. So when we are talking about the responsibility and obligation of everybody in the grid, another major thing we need to understand.
This meeting is being recorded.
Whether this is available now. I don't understand how you can run a grid without any grid for grid stability, which is called spinning reserve. The procurement of auxiliary services is required in the management of the grid. But we should ask ourselves, why is it that we cannot provide spinning reserve? It will take up the cost of electricity per kilowatt hour. Because any machine that is on spinning reserve, we need to be on standby. And I cannot tell an investor to put his machine on standby without running it and without paying him. So we have to work out the way to be able to balance this mechanism so that the energy generated, it will be energy consumed. The function of the TCN I've told you is to be able to transport this bulk power in a cheap relative way, sir.
Okay, well, let me rephrase the question I was trying to drive at. Now, you mentioned the discos. The discos say they have their own issues. The GENCOs say it's a TCN that is not, outputting, supplying power as required. Then the discos down the line say, oh, we also have issues, we have this and that. Now, what others do is to blame the TCN, the transmission company, as the real problem. One of the reasons they point out is weak infrastructure. As recently as a few days ago, the chairman of the Power Committee at the Senate, that's Senator Eyinaya Abaribe, made the point that, look, TCN has no infrastructure that anybody can rely upon. And now you are here saying that the transmission company is not the weak link. But every other player says the transmission company is the weak link. What do you have to say in defense?
That is why I wanted to get it very clear. Everybody, because this is a public organization now, dump the blames on us. But I need to let you know one thing. You should be asking if they said the TCN is the weakest link among these. What about what happened when the generation is there and the distribution are not ready to offtake? And the transmission is in the way to be able to pick up this power. What is why when the distribution are ready to take power and the GenCo are not ready to generate, whose fault? And the transmission is there. It is a very simple analysis. In the past, we wanted to do this bilateral agreement for contracted energy for DISCO. But unfortunately, everybody back out. And what was the reason? Whatever you say you are ready to carry, or whatever you say you are ready to consume, you must consume it, or else you will be penalized in the market. Up till now, we have not arrived at that. Transmission, we cannot dispute it have some weak point also, where it's not perfect. Because if it's perfect, we won't be here in transmission running it. We would have left it to be on autopilot. But when you now talk about GenCo distribution blaming transmission every time, you need to ask yourself one question. Please put it to them in the distribution. Let me state it clearly. I normally say it every forum we meet. What is the average length of a 33 kV feeder? And how many times does it trip in 24 hours? And what is the tripping record of transmission facility? Let us put them side by side and be comparing this one. So when you are talking, nobody is perfect. But because somebody want to shift blame, they push it to TCN, the federal government agency, they try to keep quiet because they are government. But now it is not so again. We have to be saying it and be telling the whole world, everybody's weakness. So you can't say TCN is a weak link. We said to them, Transmission Company of Nigeria is ready to weak capacity of in excess of 8,700 megawatts. What is the average the DISCO are doing? They have not gotten to 5,000.
Okay.
We put it to them. Why don't you put TCN into test? Ramp up your consumption. Let generation ramp it up. If we can achieve that 8,000 or not, then you blame TCN. But what we keep on hearing is that economic dispatch of power. They only want to take power to where energy is required and people can pay for it. So,
okay, Engineer Jiwe. Okay, apart from the DISCOs yes. and the GenCos. Now, there was an yes. incident recently in Bayelsa State. The whole of Bayelsa State yes. was out of power for over 4 months. Now, I had the privilege of interviewing the gentleman who is head of the Bayelsa State Electricity Company. And he said yes. that TCN was part of the problem, that the TCN did not respond appropriately, and that TCN infrastructure in Bayelsa, will appear to be weak, and that the state government had to intervene to rescue parts of the state. What is the position of the TCN watching a state, an entire state, being in darkness for over 4 months?
It is unfortunate that the person that came to that you granted that interview said all those things. I was there with them. I had meeting with them. I was in the place, and he came to my MD in Abuja. I don't know what he wanted us to do because I went to the state. I commiserated with them, and I promised them to restore power. But unfortunately, let me tell you the way we respond. I have a general manager in Port Harcourt. When that covers that area, immediately this incident happened, he went to them. But what our friends over there were expecting is for the MD to fly in and come and see them. Eventually, I went there, and they promised to assist us, which they actually did by providing vigilantes. In those areas, I now heard that they gave some people money. Actually, we moved swiftly. How do you expect us to repair 16 impacted towers? we provide enough resources, we wish our meager resources can to secure those lines, but unfortunately, they were vandalized. They told us that we were called. We went there. Before we got there, the tower collapsed and cascaded to collapse. So we started repairing them. Let me tell you one funny story that happened here. When our contractor deployed to sites, were repairing this tower. When they raise it up to certain meters in a day, before they come back in the morning, another people have dismantled those towers and went away with the tower member. Until we called them that, look, this is getting out of hand. Help us with security, and we deploy our security because those guys are so dangerous. They keep on attacking us. So these are the challenges we face in that axis. We have to visit Rivers State to collaborate and deploy security, as some states in the northeast have done. Security of the national asset belong to the Civil Defense and the Office of National Security Advisor, and we have been in constant consultation with them to be able to secure this asset. Let me put it and make it clear. We have about 41,000 towers scattered around Nigeria, in the bush, in the swampy area. What is the resources we have to be able to police all these towers? They span over 30,000 kilometers in the mountain terrain, in the swamp, in the river. So when we are collaborating, we keep on appealing to the people around those infrastructure to please, when you see something, say something, reach out to us and reach out to the security agents. The people that are vandalizing this tower, they are not ghosts. They are part of the community that this tower transverse. How can you now be blaming TCN for vandalizing the tower or not responding? We actually responded, but what we witnessed in that area was so terrible that even after we about to finish the construction, another area of the tower, about 4 span, were vandalized again. The conductor were brought down overnight and carted away inside the river. So we have this limitation, and this has been affecting TCN seriously. So it's unfair to engineer Dr. Olis to say TCN did not respond. It's unfortunate that he made that statement, and the allegation that he leveled. TCN doesn't repair the tower. We deploy contractor. Because of the number of those towers that fell, we deploy 5 group of contractors to go and handle them so that they can complete it on time. So we have called him. He has not responded. We wanted to know, who did you give money? Who did you give these resources? They only told us that they assisted them with security. So we don't know who he gave money, and I spent the money mentioned in that interview.
Okay, Engineer Jiboye, you referred to the discourse earlier. Sir. Now, I just need some clarification in that regard. You said the discourse say, oh, they will reject load, and that if TCN provides the electricity and the discourse say they don't want, and the people, ordinary people, say they don't have electricity, and everybody is saying, it's TCN, it's TCN. This allegation about load rejection, which you say is a major cause of grid collapses. I heard you when you said that. How is TCN addressing that issue?
There is little or nothing we can do about offtake by the DISCO. It is their franchise area, it is their responsibility to offtake. When they do nomination, you must take the power. So we cannot control what they do. We can only make our gateway available for exports. So if they don't want to take the load, the next thing you need to do for the grid manager is to round up generator to be able to meet up with the demand. So automatically, the power on the grid will be reduced. That is what we are experiencing now. It is not as if the generators are not there to generate, but the consumption by the DISCO, according to them, economy load dispatch, you take energy to the people that can pay. If they are in business, I don't blame them for that. I can't be giving you a product and you don't pay me money and you expect me to be pumping the product to you. So we have to look at this scenario in another dimension, economic-wise, to be able to overcome it. Let us ask ourselves in another forum, why are people not picking load? Why are people that are shouting only for electricity, when it is there, they are not consuming it?
Okay, I once had a guest on this program. His name is Engineer Idowu Oyebanjo. And the key point that Engineer Oyebanjo, PhD, Energy Systems, Manchester, made is that we are dealing with a problem of meritocracy. It thinks that the right people are not the ones in charge of TCN, and that they have put people there who know nothing about energy systems, power systems, electricity management. And it's one of the reasons I said, no, we have to get the TCN people to come and talk and defend themselves so that it's not one side of the story that is in the public domain. What do you think of Engineer Oyebanjo's submission? That it's not even just infrastructure we are dealing with lack of meritocracy in your company.
Doctor, thank you very much. It's unfortunate that Dr. Idowu made that assertion. I will tell you, sir, not being proud, that the crops of engineer you get in power sector, the best are in TCN. I've attended so many training, many courses, and as you have seen, I try to improve myself. I joined this organization in 1996. I went through the rudiment and the rank and were trained by seasoned engineer in our training school. So when he's saying that, I think he's trying to play to gallery. And I don't want to throw point here, but let us make one thing clear, sir. We have everybody brandishing certificate that was never tested. But that is not what you find in TCN. My MD has spent over 30 years in the sector as an engineer. So when you are talking of intermingling, we started with NEPA. We went through generation, transmission, and distribution before some of us were lucky to be in Transmission Company of Nigeria. We are better trained now than the people that are coming in because they don't have the facility we had. I work in generation. I work in Reuben. I interacted with the people in distribution. When I'm telling you about generation, I understand it. So also my colleagues and that are in the hierarchy here in TCN. So when somebody is telling you all these things, I think they have other agenda they want to portray. And ask them, doctor, what has it been their participation in the energy sector? More than delivering journals, writing paper, where have they worked? What was the achievement they brandished? Get all these documents, read about them. We don't just need to start talking without backing it with fact and figure. I'm trying to be humble and I try to do not to throw mud. But when somebody stand up and start telling you this, please check, fact check all the people that are leading TCN and let us know whether you will find any of us wanting, sir.
Okay, Engineer Ajiboye, I've listened to you. But let me ask you, the allegation that TCN is managing weak infrastructure, how true is that? Do you have infrastructure problems?
Yeah, it's not completely true because as we are expanding, we are doing replacement. But you know, power infrastructure are very capital intensive. It's unfortunate that it has come to the notice of the federal government this time around. We are not being funded. The money we earn from the market is not enough to do the expansion and replacement we are doing. So we have to limit and prioritize what we want to change according to the ages. It's not that we don't change them, but when equipment mounted some years back and we test it and it can still serve. But let me tell you, it's just like driving a 1976 car. You can drive it at 60 kilometers per hour, no problem. But when you start moving it at 120 kilometers per hour, you know you are signing your death warrant. The same thing is applicable. Power equipment will not tell you when the load will increase, when the condition will change, when the exigency of the grid will alter. It's all sudden. When we are talking of this equipment, we are talking this occurrence happening in micro milliseconds, and anything can go wrong during those periods. That is what you see in some of our equipment. We can manage them if we start working with them at limited. But let's assume when a generator trips somewhere or a line trip, what we think we carry just 60 megawatt, 120 megawatt. The load diversion started going to about 200 megawatts. You know what will happen? The equipment there will be stressed beyond its capacity, and the expectation we expect from it, some of them do give way in that And we have done program and phase replacements of this equipment. It's unfortunate that those ones we have not done are the ones being affected now. And we have not stopped. We are still progressing. We are moving and we are going to get there. But for some people to sit down and we are not doing anything, we can share with you information about our program and what we are doing. But they don't see what we are doing. They only see what has not been done. It's unfortunate. That is the way we are being rated, because power sector can be rated by anybody in Nigeria. The moment you don't have light in your house, it's an indication that something is wrong. We agree with that. But let us limit it. It can be local. It can be subsector.
Okay.
It can be national.
Okay. Let me ask another question. As part of the attempt by people to find a solution to this problem, some people have said the transmission company of Nigeria needs to be dismantled, needs to be decentralized, so that we can have alternate grids. Because under the Electricity Act, the Extant Act, states can also regulate electricity and all that. Why don't you decentralize the grid so that the whole of Nigeria does not have to depend on TCN? What do you say to that?
Okay, sir. As I've said earlier, let us compare the whole market. Some people will tell you how many grid do we have in USA. How many, sir? We have regional grid, but they are interconnected. What does that mean? It's still grid. Different perspectives, people are managing them. So when you have national grid, it's either one person is managing it or multiple people are managing it. Let me quickly take you to EA 2023. What the state are going to do is to be able to supply energy to their people. If peradventure they have excess capacity they want to will, they still need to bring it to the national grid for regulation. So national grid is there to serve the backbone of the nation. The purpose of the grid, let us ask ourselves, sir. The purpose is this. Look at what is happening now. We generate most of our power from fossil fuel in the south and southwest. We generate in hydro from the north central. We have to bridge this and be able to supply people. That is the essence of grid. And grid is such a way that you have to move it in high voltage so that the losses will be minimal. But so many people don't understand these intricacies. They only believe dismantling TCN maybe by regional, state level. But the moment you have to have a common company point, it becomes a grid again. What do you want to say about this one? So when they misread that act, they don't understand it fully what the act is saying. You can generate in your region, you can distribute. If you want to connect to the grid, you need to connect to the grid based on the NAC rule, not your own regulation this time around. That is the meaning. So when we talk about dismember grid, let me ask you, sir. We have dismembered DISCO. What have we achieved? Let us ask ourselves. We have decentralized Genco. What have we achieved? We have been hovering the same generation 11, 12 years ago. So the last lap they are canvassing us to dismember TCN. The one we have done, what are the results? If we are in the region of 10,000 now, megawatts, and distribution, and transmission cannot be able to wheel it, we will be talking of this one. Nobody will support the idea. Okay, let us try another formula. Let us try another way to do it. But up to now, what have we achieved? Before now, we got to 5,008. 10 years, have we gotten to 5,000? Ask yourself. We are hovering around 4,800. It's not that the generation is not there. It's there. The consumer did not diminish. Our population is increasing. Why is our energy going down? Let us keep on asking ourselves this question. Let us keep on discussing more sensitive issue. Let us discuss what is causing this problem, not who is causing the problem now. What are the reasons? Then we'll be able to identify the point and address the issue quite very well. Not the people moving from one angle to the other, because everybody is now an expert in power sector.
I like that. Well, but on that note, Engineer Ajiboye, we'd like to take a short commercial break now so that we can allow people who have been listening to us, people who have joined us via social media, to also ask you questions and make their own contributions. I still have quite a number of questions for you, but I'm sure other people who have listened to you, the people who are directly affected by power outage in Nigeria. As I said at the beginning, you can join this conversation by calling us on 0700 1051 1051. And you can send us messages at 0909 916 4403. And you can also engage us via social media accounts at City 1051 on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll take this short break and then we'll take contributions from our listeners. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Somebody shout a glorious amen! Give it up for Testimony Jagger! Welcome, Joxy! To your seat! Ladies and gentlemen, give it up as a welcome on stage!
Praise in the city!
2024. Increase and abound. Venue is the Police College Ground, Ikeja GRA. Kickoff is 11 a.m. Entry is free because
you do not have to pay to praise.
For further info on sponsorship and vendor booking, call for will be on 0802-400-6788 or Charles on 0814-071-2210. A Thanksgiving music festival.
Powered by City 1051 FM.
Thank you very much for coming out to Praise in the City. See you again in 2024.
Most of the contracts in NDDC are given out to members of National Assembly, but you don't know about it. It's okay.
When you need unbiased information, balanced analysis, reviews, and insight on the policies and programs that concern you, listen to City Talks with Reuben Abati. Be a part of it. Call 0700 1051 1051 to lend your voice on topics and help shape our country for the better.
My name is Reuben Abati. I will be your host on City Talks from noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday. Join me as we dissect major issues of public interest. You will be glad you did.
City Talks with Reuben Abati on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051. From noon to 1 p.m. every Saturday.
Welcome back from that commercial break. And for those of you who are just tuning in, we've been discussing the recurring collapse of our national power grid, the causes, the impact, possible solutions. And our guest has been Engineer Oluwagbenga Emmanuel Ajiboye, who is the Executive Director of the Transmission Service Provider, TSP, a key unit of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Remember, you can join us by calling 0700 1051 1051. You can also send us messages on 0909 916 4403. And on social media, you can join us via Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook at City 1051. Engineer Ajiboye, thank you very much for staying with us. Now, we're going to invite people to call in and ask you questions. So please, just be prepared to respond to them. We have a caller on the line. Your name, your location, and please keep it brief. Hello? Hello? Oh, okay. Sorry, that caller was playing music. Well, but I have this person here, ADGR. He says, good afternoon. There has been a recurrence of vandalism on transmission towers. We understand that these bombings also decapitate the grid. Some are even alleging that some of these attacks are orchestrated by staff of TCN because it is a route to contracts. Now, that's a very serious allegation. That part of the problem we're dealing with is corruption within TCN. And then you have this person, I think this is Engineer Bamwo, who says, my engineer, Engineer Sunday Ulubanwo says, my engineer, can Nigerians have the idea of the recent parameters of TCN generation in megawatts, distribution section, and consumers' utilities as per TCN load survey? Secondly, are you aware of redundant 4 turbines attached to Ogun State, Osun River Basin Development for years, not activated? That's the second question from Engineer Olubanwo Sunday. So let's start with those two while we wait for others to also intervene.
Can I go ahead, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay, the first question I've answered in different fora and interview I granted. It is unfortunate that people think TCN staff will collaborate to do vandalization. I said, and I still maintain, we have one of the most disciplined and well-paid workers. Very dedicated one, ready to do their work. And I believe, somebody pointed to me that you can have bad egg. I say, yes, it's possible. But with the rate of vandalization, with the use of IED, I want somebody to please tell me, is it TCN staff that are doing all those ones? Is it TCN staff that disturb us from repairing the tower collapse? We need to ask ourselves question. And is it TCN staff? Most of the people that have been arrested, we arrested one recently in Kano about 3 or 4 days ago. He told us he normally cut them into pieces and send it to Babambola. They are in court. We have so many that we have arrested. None of them have pointed to TCN staff, which can justify what I've been saying, that TCN staff will never engage in that. Because we know the meaning of sabotaging national assets according to the law of Nigeria, and we are educated. And they know what they are going to lose, being terminated, losing their benefits, which they have worked over years to secure with the pension fund. So when you are talking, I want people to please look critically. Is it TCN that are planting IED around their tower? Let us be asking ourselves. Are they the one that have been caught? Go to Bayelsa, they have arrested some people, about 12 of 13. None of them pointed or mentioned TCN staff. The one we arrested in Kano, none of them. The one we arrested towards Shiroro, none of them. So I want people to please disabuse their mind. We are not happy that the money we're supposed to use for reinforcement, used to expansion, is being used to rehabilitate our. It's not comfortable for us. Let me put it right. Any tower brought down, TCN is losing revenue every day, and it's affecting our revenue. So in as much as we can keep our tower upright and able to whip power, that is when we can remain afloat. So I want us to please look at it. The second question is about the power on the grid. The power on the grid depends on the consumption that is required. We have been doing about 4,003, 4,008. And I told people we did more than this before, which we are able to take and be able to sustain. We have done 5,800 before all this problem started. So when you are talking, I put it right this way. From the static simulation TCN has done, because it's subjected, you can subject it. You can bring anybody around the world to come and run tests on the grid according to what we have now, the data available. Go around and pick all this data and value of equipment on the ground. We have done static simulation of our system, and we see conveniently we can wheel 8,700 megawatts. People are doubting it. I say let us put the DISCO to test also, and generation. Let the DISCO sign an agreement, contractual agreement with the DISCO, bilateral agreement that they want to take this power up to 8,700 megawatts. And it is after that, if TN is not comfortable wheeling those power, that you can say what we promise, what we say we can do, we cannot do it. But nobody has been able to counter that. Bring independent people anywhere in the world. Let them go around our installation. Collect the data themselves. Don't let them collect data from us, because people might think we forge them. Let them go around. So that is how I can say conveniently we can wheel 8,700 megawatts. But what the DISCO require now is below 5,000, and that is what we are giving them. On the stranded and redundant turbine, it is not the duty of TCN. We are available. If you want to come to the grid, you notify us, come and sign agreement in the market and become a market participant. It is the responsibility and duty of the people that build the turbine and know what they want to do with the turbine to make it available for the grid if they so desire to sell the energy to the grid. So that is how we answer that question. So TCN in any area is ready to receive that supply, but they will need little investment to be able to do that, so that they will be able to access the most convenient and suitable point on the grid to evacuate such power. Thank you, Mr. Bako.
Anyway, Engineer Ajiboye, we have another caller on the line. Let's see whether we'll be able to get a correct connection with this caller. Good afternoon. Your name, your location, and please keep it.
Very good afternoon, Doctor. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Prince YS, calling you from Amodofin. My question to your guest is this. This collapse of grid all the time. Now, is there no internal body sabotaging the effort of these people? I want your guest to shed light into this, because collapsing all the time is it the management, all their equipment is no more okay to serve the country. That's the only question I want to ask, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Prince YS from Amodofin.
Yes. You can reframe the question for me, Doctor. I didn't pick up the question very well, sir.
No, he says the sabotage that we keep experiencing. That are you sure that people inside TCN are not involved? And then he raised the question again about weak infrastructure. You had addressed those two issues, but you may still talk about them. But there's somebody else again on the line. Hello?
Hello.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Your name, your location, and please keep it brief.
Okay. My name is Barrister Peter Oku, and I'm calling from Maryland. Yes. Good day, Dr. Abati. My contribution is that I think we are not taking the issue of power in this country with the maximum seriousness deserves. Because I have worked as general manager in different manufacturing companies, and in manufacturing, power supply is the ultimate, it is the key, because generating power privately with private generator and is very expensive for manufacturing. But NEPA, which is probably cheaper, cannot be relied upon. That is the problem we have in Nigeria. The private generation of power is about 5 times more than if you are getting your power supply from NEPA. So I think there is gross insincerity on the part of NEPA. Gross insincerity. The power distribution should be treated with utmost priority, as if it is a public sector issue. But we take the issue of power as very public. There's so much corruption in this in NEPA, so much corruption, and it makes operation of business, whether in manufacturing or distribution, very expensive. And because of that, you can make profit, you know. So what I think my suggestion is that they should dissolve NEPA. A country cannot depend on a central power supply. It's not possible. China will not be where they are if everything is done by government. should decentralize it. They are very corrupt, and the equipment is outdated. I was a company I worked for at the time. We were given a contract to supply some compressors by the Jola NEPA district. We placed an order from Britain. The company replied us that they don't make that type of compressor anymore. They stopped making it over 50 years ago, and yet NEPA is just placing order for it. So I think they need to just dissolve NEPA and reconstitute it so that private sector can have interest in it.
Can I respond to those two questions?
Yes, before you respond, Engineer Ajiboye, we have Adegboyega Adedeji, so that you can take all the second round of reactions together. He says, Dr. Abati, if you recall on this program, you spoke with an energy expert a few months ago. He was able to hit the nail on the head precisely. You can see what our guest is doing now. He's passing the buck, shifting the blames instead of providing solution. Not that the TCN doesn't have competent engineers, but because of the politics that is involved. Everyone is playing safe and mindful of their contributions. No one wants to lose their job, so the truth will not be revealed. This section, it means this sector, needs an overhauling. Adegboyega Adedeji. So, Engineer Ajiboye, you can respond now. More people are sending messages. Let's deal with this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to respond to the first, after this session, that asks whether we have insider in TCN that are contributing to this. As I said, we are very dedicated and trusted, but it doesn't mean that anything cannot happen. You cannot be 100% complete, but so far so good. None has been traced to any of our staff, and I reiterate that they are still one of the best in the power sector. And because we have really spent money on training, retraining, educating our performing team to be able to deliver. So I don't see anybody that will want to put his job on the track when you know you have the potential of getting to the highest, the peak of your career. So people should please, other sector might be doing it, but they don't do it in TCN. So when you are talking, again, people say there are weak infrastructure. I told you I'm not shifting blame. Let me tell you, doctor, if we can arrange tour, we will tell you categorically today. Yesterday, we commissioned a transformer. By Tuesday, we will commission another one. At least 2 next week. Aye, Ibadan, UI, and Lekki. So far, so good. This year alone, we have commissioned over 42 power transformers, adding over 3,000 MVA capacity to TCN. We are not saying we have problem, we know, but we are addressing it. We are not passing buck. We have limited resources, but go and check it. The cost of each transformer, either 60 MVA, 75 MVA, 100 MVA, including 150 MVA and 300 MVA that we have deployed so far this year. We are targeting before the end of this year whether we'll be able to commission about 50 because we have them lined up. The meaning is this: we increase our transformation capacity, but we have some restriction. Let me tell you clearly. Taking power in bulk quantity to the low center, because we cannot construct new lines, we cannot demolish houses. So there are some constraints that we are working around to make sure we bypass in that area. So when we are talking about that, we should know, the people that understand the power sector know that there is limit to what you can use a line to carry. And we have gotten another means of increasing that capacity by doing what we call reconductoring, to be able to take more power to the low center without constructing new line. The man that talked, Mr. Adegboyega, if you follow the power sector, there is no NEPA again. everything has been separated. So I don't know what he said that they should disband again, or which of the company they should disband and do. But let us get one thing clear, sir. The man was talking about ordering for something in UK. I was in UK. I went to some of the substations. I still saw equipment of 1932 functioning. If you have access to the spare parts and you are able to repair them, they will still do the work. So it is not the age that matters. If you can get the spare, they will still function. What they do is this. They manufacture for their own country, but they want to sell new product to the other country. That is what happened in your case when you went there. That particular equipment, they will still be using it to service their own equipment they manufacture, but they will not give it out to anybody. They want you to buy new one. That is what we face being a consuming nation. Adibi, we are the one doing the assembly line and production line will not be shut down until we finish using all the equipment in our grid. Thank you, sir. If I've answered that question. Mr.
Okay,
Adewale.
I still have many people intervening. I'm trying to manage time now, but I see that Fox Ibrahima has his hand up on Zoom. Let's listen to him, and we'll take two more contributions, and then I'll come back to you and we'll wrap up. Ibrahima, please. Yes, I see your hand up. Can the engineers please go to Mr. Ibrahima?
Okay. Dr. Abati, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
I missed Engineer Diboye's presentation because I'm about 6 hours behind right now. I want to say thank you for this topic. I think it's a subject we're all familiar with. And let me just provide some quick notes. Engineer Diboye, thank you. But I think you are spending too much energy and time praising the staff of TCN. See, there is no way we will not have good people and bad eggs. There is corruption. That's number one problem in every sector. Okay, if the 4 refineries in Nigeria didn't work, it's sabotage. There are saboteurs too in TCN who are collaborating with outsiders. You can't just continue to praise them and praise them. Well, let us leave that. In Bayelsa, we're in Bayelsa in November for the All Nigeria Editors Conference. For 3.5 months, the whole state was in total darkness. I don't know how you can explain that to anybody. But I hear it was because they are vandalizing TCN masts and the rest of it. So if you see, it's becoming a pattern. So people vandalizing TCN infrastructure. What is really going on? If it's not in Bayelsa, it is in the north, or it is in some other places. So that's the second point. I think the Bayelsa people, we have not treated them very well. We didn't respond very well because we were there for about 5 days. They were running on generator and solar. I'm talking about solar, by the way. And a lot of Nigerians are now switching to solar power. And therefore, revenue will be lost, by the likes of the discos. I hope you know what I mean. I have friends who are permanently on solar now and generator. They are not on the grid. I don't know the implication for revenue, but it is looking like an immediate solution. Finally, this Watch magazine, more than 30 years ago, did a cover story, A Nation in Darkness. I want you to tell Nigerians today, whether 10 years from now, Nigeria will still be in darkness. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Foxy Ibrahima, speaking with us all the way from Canada. I also see another hand up here on Zoom, Engineer Olubanwo Sunday. Engineer Sunday Olubanwo, please. If the engineers could just go to him quickly. Engineer Olubanwo. Hello? Engineer Sunday Olubanwo, are you with us? Okay, while we're waiting for the engineers to get across to him, Femi from Ikorodu has this message. He says foreign investors will not listen to all these stories your guest is giving. And the president is busy running all over the world looking for foreign direct investment. They will simply go to countries that are serious. Many African countries have solved this power issue. We are just here giving excuses. We talk too much. Without light, this country is not going anywhere economically. That's Femi from Ikorodu. Do we have Engineer Olubanwo now?
I believe so. If your engineers have.
Okay, please go ahead. Yeah, thank you for joining
I want
us.
to say hi to Dr. Reuben Abati. Thank you very much.
Yes.
we are friends, I know.
Yeah.
And
how are you?
Engineer Jibo, you are welcome. I have heard everything you have said, and I've written a note, but I believe that time is not allowing them to have read it. So, just my simple little questions. Can Nigerians know the current parameters as per TCN generation megawatts, distribution consumption, and the consumers as per TCN load survey carried out as of today? Because if you don't know what you generate, what the consumers are consuming, it will be difficult to know exactly what is happening. Number one question. Number two, are you aware of 4 turbines lying fallow, unactivated at Ogun River Basin Development Authority in Ogun State area, close to Osun State, that can help in your generation system? Thank you.
Okay, just before I come back to you, Engineer Jiboye, I just read out another question. He's also an engineer. Tony Akeshu is a petroleum engineer. He says, this is the 5th year since an electricity improvement deal was signed between Nigeria and Germany, largely for transmission upgrade. What is the status? Is this project going to be delivered at all? Tony Akensho is an engineer in the oil and gas sector. Okay, I come back to you now as we begin to wrap up very quickly.
Okay, thank you. Let me start with Ehi Ibrahima. I'm not ruling out sabotage. I said it, that we cannot be 100% perfect. Please take note of that. But we have not been able to identify or catch anyone. And we know we try to put them in high pedestrian where they will perform optimally. So I'm not saying 100%. Everywhere in the world, you cannot get 100%. So we know that the revenue, there is the revenue. And the solar integration is getting higher because of the power problem in Nigeria. But you need to understand the limit of it for now. So people still going to use power utility. That is the one we are talking about when you are talking of disco transmission and generation. So there is no way. Actually, we are losing money in the sector because of alternative. But mind you, another claim, opportunities has been given for every embedded generation. That type of system, we can call them embedded generation, to feed back to the grid. Nigeria can still get there. The meaning is this: if you install solar energy and you cannot take everything, you have a form of transmitting it back to the grid and you will be compensated for that. So we are not losing out in all this plan. It's only that the pace at which we are moving is slow. We can promise you that it will not be like this in the next 10 years. With the investment federal government is making, but I need to quickly correct one impression. Please, without industrialization of the country, with industry folding up, there is no way the quantum of energy consumption in Nigeria will go up. Let us not deceive ourselves. Nigeria electricity is being used for consumption, for enjoyment, domestic use, putting on AC, watching television. No economy thrive on that type of usage for power. So please, we should know, if we continue this trajectory without any industry setting up to consume energy, we will be hovering around this where we are now. So with the infrastructure development the government is making, and they are looking critically at all sectors now, what is your problem? They are really trying to intervene so that they can solve it. But it's not going to be not like that. We might have stranded capacity. which we already have in TCN now. You install an equipment and it's on soak, no energy to use it. Because what we have realized is that most of the energy being produced is only used for pleasure in Nigeria. We might have the infrastructure, we might have the capacity, but if nobody to consume the energy, it will be there. Again, I realize that the purchasing power of Nigeria has diminished. That is why we are losing customers. Most people on Bande now, they have requested to be switched off, that they don't want the light. So you can see the decrease in the consumption in that aspect. I think Mr. Femi only made comment which doesn't require any response, doctor. It's a comment. Mr. Toyin Akeoshu, you asked about the FG, Federal Government Power Co. That is the cement. The first phase has been concluded. 10 substations have been deployed across Nigeria. The data are available for you to check, and they are already functioning. We have at Okene, we have at Aja, we have at Jeba, we have 10 substations installed by them. That is the first phase of that project. It has been delivered. That is the pilot phase, rather. It has been delivered. We are going to the first phase now. And agreement is being signed to be able to deploy it. And let me tell you, the federal government has taken a step further when we identify that the DISCO are not taking this power. Under this initiative, the FG Power Pool, the DISCO will be assisted to reinforce their infrastructure so that power can get to people. I think I've answered that question, Doctor.
Yes. But that was Engineer Olubamu. But I thought you had responded to him earlier because I brought up those questions earlier.
I responded to the Ogun-Osun River Basin. I've explained to them, if you do a generation, either captive or you want to come to the grid, it is not the duty of the TCN or anybody in the market to pursue you. It is the responsibility of the people that make that investment to be able to put it into use. So we cannot go there and say, and moreover, let me tell you, the generation available for us is over 13,000 megawatts with what we have now. But we should ask ourselves, why is it not getting to people? And when we are talking, recently, about 3 days ago, sir, you experienced that we have collapse, which you call the number 12. And what happened? Non-payment of gas company. They reduced the gas supply to the fossil fuel, the thermal generation and the gas generators. We have to rely on the hydro. And there was shift in the direction of that is what led to that tripping. They have the generator at Jeba and kind of have to go on under frequency.
Okay.
So when we talk about all these things, okay, sir.
Well, I'm sure we can go on and on, but we just have to go off the program now. And it remains for me to thank you for today's show and for your contributions, Engineer Emmanuel Ajiboye, Executive Director of the Transmission Service Provider, a key unit of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, for sharing your insight on the frequent collapse of Nigeria's national power grid. Now, it's been a quite an eye-opening conversation. No doubt about that. And to everyone who listened to us or who joined us on social media, thank you very much for joining us. Let's hope to see progress soon, because reliable power is important for the growth and well-being of our nation's economy. And thank you also those who called in and everyone who engaged with us. The conversation continues online. You can reach me personally on Instagram at Abati 1990, and you can follow at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, you can watch the full show on YouTube page City1051, and don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments when you do so. And don't forget also to join us next week at 12 noon for another edition of City Talks. I'm Reuben Abati, and the show was produced by Kasmi Uzurigbo, Damola Oludara, Oluwaseun Adetitun, Festus Odemero, Oluwatobiloba Samson, and Abiodun Odnoton. The executive producer is Adedoja Allen. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. See you again next week.
We don't want to make government cut down for we.
The same flavor.
Extreme poverty, totally unacceptable.
Same on the edge.